Hey everybody, hope you're doing well today. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about a big string library, and this is one that's been highly anticipated for, or basically ever since the teaser came out. Um, People weren't really sure what the concept was and what it was all about. But as soon as the first walkthroughs came out and people got their hands on it, um, the reception has been very largely positive, and that is because Afflatus Chapter 1 Strings by Strezov Sampling is um, it's kind of hard to define. It's like a workhorse library, but at the same time, it's also a niche library. And as soon as you go on the product page and kind of see what it's all about, you'll notice the actual vast amount of content that this actually comes with. It's like multiple libraries in one. So let's get right into it. Um, the trailer video for this library, um, I think they defined Afflatus as like a moment of inspiration or something like that. And a lot of people basically said that as soon as they started playing, they wanted to start composing right away with this library due to the beautiful tone of it and just the emotion and the movement in the sound. So let me just play the kind of the famed patch that everyone was waiting for, the Scene d'Amour violins. So first I'm going to play some polyphonic stuff, and then we'll go straight into the legato and see what it sounds like. So here's some polyphonic stuff. So immediately the tone, if I had to describe the sound of the library, in at least in this patch, it's very retro Hollywood setting. Like it has kind of a more dated type of sound in a way. It's less like in your face, modern Hollywood type of thing. It is feels like more laid back. It gives us memories of older times, older classic films, that kind of thing, and it's really really nice. And it kind of matches the aesthetic that on the GUI. I think it's more on the more retro end of the spectrum. It reminds us of kind of those older days, and it sounds really lovely. And the detailed sound does come through because it's actually not that many violins. It's actually just 5 violins, but it has just enough of that passionate vibrato that it gives us these really emotional lines. And the legato sounds really lovely. You'll notice there's actually no control for vibrato or anything, and I mean, you can put in some of these parameters here to adjust your sound accordingly. But out of the box playing, it does sound really really nice. And so I don't think this is a patch meant to be fiddled around with too much. You're just supposed to open it, play it, and just get your lines in really smoothly. So let's carry on. The tenutos are just like kind of marked shorter articulations. It's kind of like a stress and then it comes out. So it's like this. Right? So it almost has like a swell effect. It goes in and then comes out. Beautiful sound. Okay, the Lush Violins has way more violins, more than double, and this is 12 violins. So that's where the lush sound comes in with all these violins layered on top of each other. So you'll notice here I was playing ponophonically, and this library actually features polyphonic legato, which basically means if I'm playing more than one note at one time, both notes will activate together. But when I change both notes, then both of those notes will activate legato transitions to their next note. Most string libraries are monophonic in nature in their legato patches, so this was a pretty big feature. And it makes sketching and writing a lot easier, so you don't have to open multiple, violin patches or multiple violin tracks to get each of your counterpoint lines in. You can just do it this way, which is really nice. And then it also features autodivisi, which basically means the more keys that you play, the violins will automatically be distributed accordingly. So, this is 12 violins, so if I play one line monophonically, then each note will feature all 12 violins. But if I play two notes, then it's essentially like 6 violins on each note. So you hear that sound is a little bit thinner than if I just play one note. Versus like... So there is a twinge of like just a little more of a thinner sound there, and that's because there's like less violins playing each of those notes. So which is a really neat feature. All right. Then let's get into the minimalist violins. Now, I wish I could go through the whole library and kind of show you, all these patches, but it's really quite big in size. And so I'm just showing you, like most of these patches are just from the violins one folder here. And you can see all the different genres it comes with. So, most of, or all of these articulations and playing styles were recorded with a theme in mind. And the way they're labeled makes it quite easy for you to kind of say like, okay, if I'm going for something romantic and lush, then I'll consider the C no more violins. If I want something really passionate with a vibrato. If you want something more full, maybe less vibrato, you can consider the lush ones. Chamber violins are obviously less violins, so it's going to sound a little thinner and smaller. But let's hear the minimalist one. So I expect these to be a little less passionate. Maybe a little more held back in a way because they're minimalist, so it's very little. So here they're less. They're digging into into the instrument a little less. It's more on the surface there, which is quite lovely. And then we have impressionist violins. So it kind of goes back and forth there. It's almost like a little bit of a tremolo, which sounds pretty cool. Then we got some spider violins. So you hear some plucking going on. You hear some pitch bending in the playing. So some very effective style there. This one definitely puts the listener on edge a little bit. Then you got the chamber violins, which is just 6 violins. A little bit of vibrato there, not the most passionate, so it's a little more of a clinical sound in a way. Now, they recently did an update where they included some new patches, and Arrival Violins is in this update, which I think is awesome. it sounds like this. So essentially what they're doing is they're like, if I hit my target note C, the violins go on the half tone above and the semitone below. So it's like they're playing a C sharp and a B natural, and they're sliding in towards the C. So it's like, you hear how that sound forms together afterwards. So if you play multiple notes, this could be really interesting. You know? If you imagine like someone's blurred vision coming into focus, and then they like realize what's going on. You know, perfect film scoring patch right there. Okay, I wanted to bring in some violas and celli to show you kind of the lower edge or lower range. And this one you can see comes with a divisi as well. So let me just let's turn it on actually. And the hall they recorded it in has a really nice tail as well, so it just sounds, you know, really, really nice. Then we got the barbaric string shorts. So, beautiful sound there. Christmas strings. Now, this is unique in that it features violas, cellos, and an alto sax. So it has a slightly lighter sound, but it's also kind of creamy. The alto sax almost sounds like a voice singing on top, which is lovely. But I do wish they recorded the you know, they recorded it higher here so we could have a higher range. I do understand the alto sax, you know, it has about an A flat, you know, like that one there that I'm playing, this one. It has that kind of limit, A flat and A. But, you know, even so, even a few more notes would have been really nice. I really like the sound of this patch myself. And the Sacado Low Strings are awesome because they really remind me of the Metropolis Arc series from OT, like especially Arc 3. It has those low strings staccatissimos. Okay, kind of gritty, but it still has that old filmic sound, which is nice. Now there's been a lot of debate, like, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? You know, the fact that the sound is a little bit more retro in a way and less polished. And I think it's entirely situational, to be honest. Like, especially as a layering tool, it could sound really nice. If you have a more modern sounding library like Hollywood Strings or, you know, something like that, or Berlin Strings in a way, and then you layer it with something like this, with a similar articulation like legato, I think it would sound really, really nice. It has that contrasting texture in the atmosphere, you know, with those libraries interacting. And I've tried that before, and it does sound lovely. So this is definitely a library for experimentation. Then we have the first chair, Violin 1 Legato, which was also in the update, and it sounds like this. Now, if you play hard, you get the Portamento, which is kind of like a very exaggerated slide to the note. So the best way to use that feature would be to play, you know, maybe some faster notes with kind of a lower velocity, and then when you have that big interval, if you want that really like strong moment, then you press harder, you get that portamento, and then it sounds really, really emotional, really lovely. Now, I would recommend layering these solo first chair instruments with maybe other solo instruments, or even to strengthen your ensemble section. Because, while this is perfectly playable, it's not the most, detailed and, seamless first chair performance. I think it was definitely dedicated to, layering in with the other ensembles or even other solo strings you might have that are more meant for that purpose. Then we have the angelic strings, which are strings layered in with choirs, and that sounds like this. Beautiful. Let's hear some horn strings. So this is more in the experimental section. And you hear the tail has a really big like echo sound, and it kind of fades away. The pitch kind of bends down and super gritty. I love it. And then I totally didn't expect to like the pads, because I'm not really a sound designer myself, but playing these I have a ton of fun. So they actually give you a whole wide selection here that you can choose from, and then you can further tweak that with your own plugins if you'd like to. So let's just start with like Predator to see what that sounds like. Okay, that was one key. All right, so like, I don't know what to say. I mean, that is amazing. I've never had something like this. Yeah, I can just press one key, and then you get the sound of these strings, but distorted in a way that makes it sound just so unique. Definitely an action film kind of scene there, action scene type of sound. Let's try Deep Space. Very cool. And that's just sci-fi. Let's so fantasy. And each of these, each of these keys within the patch are all completely unique sounds. So you'll never run out of ideas, out of options. There's so many here. Let's do one more. How about insects? Okay, so I have a phobia for insects, so I'm not going to continue. But that is basically the concept behind Afflatus Chapter 1 Strings by Strezov Sampling. And that is to provide you with a bunch of playing styles and ensemble sizes. So it's essentially 20 libraries all jam-packed into one library. And the price tag does reflect that. It's the regular price is 799 euros, which is about the same as Berlin Strings and some of the really top draw string libraries out there. But unlike those other ones, this one, like I said, has come recorded with some really unique visions in mind. Lots of different playing styles, and the ensembles, you should check those out when you have some time. These themselves, just feature the most unique sounds available. And then the pads, like we demonstrated, have some really, really cool sound effects that you can play around with. So yeah, I mean, in addition to these basic sections, which already covered a lot of grounds, way more than some other string libraries, you get these experimental type of patches combinations with other instruments that you might not necessarily normally combine with strings, and the pads as well. And then the combinations are more like your typical ensemble patches. So for example, the C number legato is like, the entire string orchestra combined into one patch. So that would be better for sketching. That would be more light on resources. But in general, yeah, that is Afflatus. I hope that I covered the library a little bit for you. Unfortunately, I can't cover the entire thing in one video. That would take like 5 hours. I love you, Daniel James. And yeah, so that's it. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.